So, I don't have parts to work on the Jeep this week like I thought I was going to. So, we are going to do a video about this FMS, this FMS Jimny. It's a 1/6 scale. It's an RTR. This is basically a stock truck, other than the guy I got it from made the doors and painted it blue. It was originally tan. Other than that, this is a stock truck. So the goals for it is while it does look cool as it sets, it has terrible ground clearance. It is stiff, and the wheels and tires, while they look neat on it, they're super narrow. They don't exactly get a ton of traction, so they're not all that great. So the plan is these are actually very simple to put a lift kit on, and pulls a little bit more flex out of them, and we're going to do a wheel and tire swap on it. So nothing crazy, but it's going to make a huge difference as far as performance goes. Remember, yeah, the window folds down. This is actually a really neat truck too. I bought this after I bought the these three FMS cars. This is their entire Volkswagen lineup. They're 1/12 scale, highly detailed little cars, like, as in, like, you've got to actually, like, physically pull the door handle to open it, and then when you lock it, it's got a nice solid thunk for, like, a door. You know, spare tire that's actually functional. Then, if I can do this without dropping it. It's so high up here. It's got a very nicely detailed little engine bay. The fan belt here actually spins when the motor's going, which I think is really neat. Suspension-wise, they are set up super realistic to an actual real Beetle. With the exception of the fact that these are four-wheel drive, which is kind of odd for what they are. Now, that being said, I wouldn't exactly call these things fun remote control cars. They're neat. And they are highly detailed. I would call them, they're more like drivable model cars than a actual, like, RC car, like a remote control car. So they're kind of an oddball thing, but I do enjoy them for what they are. Like, I want to leave this one alone. I basically want to leave that one alone too. This one I have some plans for. Whether it might just be a repaint, it might be just like aging it to make it look rusty and patinaed, but I'd like to lower it, put different wheels and tires on it, actually do something with that one. I think it'd be kind of fun. This one I could see me, like, tearing down, repainting, and changing wheels and tires on as well. But at the same time, I kind of like the way it looks. I would like the diffs locked in that one so I could drive it off-road a little bit better. This one, I have no intentions of changing at all. I like the way it is. I like the color it is. I like everything about it. These are going to be more or less like when we go to Cartoons on Main, we'll probably get these out, walk around with them, drive them while we're there. It'll be a neat little thing for people to see. But other than that, these will probably never come off the shelf. This, on the other hand, this, while I would say maybe not being quite as detailed as the Beetles over there, this is a 1/6 scale. It's much bigger. Still though, like, the detail, like the seats work, the steering wheel turns on a servo. This back tailgate opens and shuts, like the whole tailgate opens and shuts. Everything else is underneath the hood. So, I mean, everything's there. The guy did some wiring for the lights and stuff. I'll probably clean some of that up too while we're at it. And the big kicker for me, which is something I'm not normally a fan. Oh no. He did tell me those were barely put on, so that's fine. Actually, I think I kind of dig it more without the doors. See, and right there, look at that detail. It's even got, you know, you've got your regular, like, 5-speed shifter. Or no, that right there looks like it is, yeah, you got your regular, like, floor shift, your high-low, e-brake, clutch pedal, brake, gas, all of your gauges and stuff. Yeah, it's got a lot of detail to it. Then you get underneath it here. It's on a full metal chassis, which is really nice. And it's leaf sprung, which is something I'm not normally a huge fan of. I'm not a big fan of leaf spring trucks. They're okay, but they're just not my thing. This one, though, this one's a little different on that story, because I think it's pretty cool. That being said, and it's even like it's a divorced motor and transfer case too, which is, I get, it's getting to be more common, but not super common. As you can see, it's got LED lights going through it. But yeah, the goal with this is I want to soften up the leaf springs, which means I think on all four corners we are taking off these two center leaves, if not the two bottom leaves, and leaving that one with leave the two biggest. We're going to be doing that front and rear, and then there is a way that you can flip the axles and get a lot more ground clearance, because it's technically kind of got drop blocks on it. And by doing all that, we will gain a lot of ground clearance. I want to go ahead and change out this servo horn, if not maybe the whole servo. There's also a way to mod it to where the servos drop down lower instead of being up high. And there's a lot of little things you can do to improve it. So those are the things we're going to focus on this video, as well as doing a wheel and tire swap. Because I have these, and I think they will look good on it. Those, I could maybe see these, but I don't think these are tall enough. And I think the military look, with no bigger than they are, would look weird on this truck. I could also see these looking good, because like size-wise, they fit it relatively well. So we might try the looks of these ones on there too, but I think these are the ones I want to go with. So we will go ahead and pull these out of the drawer. We're going to do a little bit of work with these as well. So, because these need weighted to help drive the truck a little bit better. So, yeah. All right. Now that we got that out of the way. Things are falling. As you can tell, this video is not very well prepared this week. I was fully intended on working on the Jeep, but some things have come up and things did not go nearly as well as planned. That's the best way I can put it right now. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. There will be some details about what's going on with the Jeep in the Jeep video. But overall, there's also a handful of RCs and stuff for sale currently, as well as I think one, if not both, of my MGs. So, yeah. Not for good reasons either. I kind of messed up my taxes, but that's neither here nor there. All right, enough rambling. We're already 8 minutes in, and I ain't done shit yet. So, time to shut it and get to work. Alright, so first things first, we're just going to start by getting the wheels and tires off of it and out of the way. Because they're on there super tight, that's why. Because we're not going to be leaving them on anyway, so there's no point in them staying on. Maybe. Holy crap. Make sure you tighten the lug nuts on your RCs to 1,000 foot-pounds. Jesus. Definitely was trying to make sure they did not come off. I will give them that. Come on. That, and I'll be honest with you, I'm curious to see how the wheels and tires I've picked look on it at fish ride height before we change anything, because I think it's going to look about the same. But the suspension needs softened up a lot, so that's kind of the reason why we're doing this right this second, instead of just jumping into the suspension instead. So, I think, yeah. I'm going to put the lug nuts back on just to kind of secure it. I mean, that right there alone, that view's got to look beefy. I can only imagine what the side profile is going to look like on camera too. So, because there's what was on it. I mean, they're neat looking. So, size comparison, about double the width, about the same height. So, I wish I had a fifth to put on the back as well, but I don't. I got these used, so it's not like I can exactly remember what they are. But oh yeah, there we go. Now it looks like you put 32s on your stock Jimny. It's not terrible. It's drivable that way. Until the first time you go to flex. But hey, there are details. Thought it didn't have flex before. These on there is absolutely no room for flex. So that is why we're going to go and work on the lift kit instead. So I'm going to pop this back off. I don't plan on leaving this whole video like this, by the way, guys. I feel the need to ramble for a little bit, but actually it's something done at the same time. So figure I'll leave you guys like that for a little bit before I actually do some real work and throw you up into the camera doing something. So this thing is not light either, by the way. It's not heavy. It's by far not the heaviest truck that I have. Kind of, I would say one of the more awkward ones to pick up and move around like that, though, just because it's not many good places to put your hands like there is some of the other trucks. So, this will be a new comparison. The old tire stack versus new tire stack. Now that the Jimny looks like it's been parked on the wrong side of Chicago, we're good to go. We've done this lock. Yeah, there we go. That's what I thought. We're going to put your locks in. And for perspective on how much tire we're putting on this thing, there's the stocks, and here's the ones we're putting on. So that is a significant amount more contact patch with the ground while actually driving. This alone, regardless of whether or not the tread pattern's all that great, which these are Mickey Thompson Baja claws, so these are not a bad tire. But that contact patch alone will make a huge difference while crawling versus this. Because I mean, these are basically a glorified tractor tire, military tire. They're not really all that great. They're not meant for the train and stuff that I drive on. Although they probably wouldn't do terrible. They're not the right thing. So these would actually look cool as like trailer tires for one of my monster trucks. Like actually physically be on the monster truck. There you go, FMS. Sell these as those bolt-on monster truck tires. Alright, now that we're to this point, I think I'm going to go ahead and throw you guys in the time lapse, and I'll get the axles pulled off and show you guys all that. There's a brake anything. Ooh, that's scary. Yeah, we'll get the axles pulled off, and I will go through and show you guys exactly what I'm doing to modify everything. As well as I got to figure out exactly how I am modifying the servo mount and stuff as well. Because there is a way that you can move the servo from the inside to the outside, and I want to get that done. Because it helps with the steering angle and everything. So we may start on the back, knock it out, get the simple one done, and then move to the front. So, but, alright, here we go. All right, so we're at this point, and I figure I will stop here for a second and show you guys what I'm doing. So, I have decided that I am going to use out of the 3 helper springs. So, let me grab another pair here. So, there is a long, medium, and short. So, the longer one should, in fact, let it still flex more because it's softer. This one would let it flex less, but it also puts more stress on the longest leaf spring. I've decided to go with the middle one, which will kind of hurt flex a little bit from my understanding. But at the same time, it's going to hurt the flex of the truck a little bit, but at the same time, it's going to also help with stability a little bit. So I'm going to try that. And I'm going to try something I haven't seen any of the other guys do. Because, I mean, you mount this up here when you do it. And they all talk about you need to do some trimming there. I don't think I'm going to do that trimming for starters. Because I don't really want to weaken this at all. And I also think I'm going to try running the shocks here. Instead of leaving them in this position here like most people do and then them being way collapsed and everything, I'm going to try running them here. Which I think realistically for how most trucks have their shocks positioned is a bit more realistic in my mind. I could be wrong, but that's what I have in my head. That's what I'm going to do. The front, I still got to figure that out because the front will... I know guys have said they've ran into issues. I'm going to probably try doing a similar thing by moving it from here to here, maybe, or back here. We'll see, but I'm pretty sure moving it too far this direction gets it in the way of the steering. So I got to figure, I got to figure that out yet. But for now, we're going to focus on the back, get the back done. Why do I feel like I keep running out of breath today? It's going to be a long day. So, before I get any more carried away, because I just realized I didn't think to explain it. So, here's the axle. As you guys can see, there are these blocks that go up underneath the leaf springs, and that's how it's mounted. So, the reason why I said it's got like drop blocks and you can make this work is because, with a little bit of effort, you can do this. Now, what this does is this moves it to where now the leaf spring and everything is sitting on top of the axle instead of underneath of it. Which in turn gives you a significant amount of lift because you gotta stop and think it's that amount of drop previously. So now that becomes that amount of lift. So basically you've doubled the lift, if that makes sense. So by doing that, that gets it up a lot higher. I'm honestly debating on whether or not I need to take off the leaf springs themselves in order to get everything put together. I might have to do that. I hadn't thought about that when I took it apart this way. But I'm going to try not doing that, but I don't think I can get my tool in. So I think I'm just going to undo half of the leaf spring, tilt them forward, take them from this angle to like this angle, and go ahead and get everything mounted. I will throw you guys back up in time lapse, and I'm just going to share you that without me talking or anything. I'm just going to get it done. Alright, we are back to this point. Now, as you see, I don't have the shocks on here yet. And that's because I got to play around with what exactly I want to do. So, the old mounting location is right there. And I have moved these forward, obviously, as you can see, which I could leave that mounted there or even maybe move it back there like that. And that would work. My original thought was right here. But as you can see, that is not going to work. I would need that turned around at least the other direction. So what I think I may try is leaving it in the stock mounting location and see where that puts me. It looks like it's going to make it very short, which I'm not really excited about. So I might move it back here just to be able to extend it a little bit more. Now I know that seems crazy to have that way, but you guys stop and think a lot of full-size trucks also have theirs with them laid over like that in the rear. At least stock. It might be a little different on some lifted trucks, I don't know. But stock, that wouldn't be terrible. So now the front, like I said, still going to be a different story. I got to figure that out. But I think for the rear, matter of fact, instead of sitting here just talking about it, don't just talk about it, just do it. We'll go ahead and see. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. It should be entertaining to watch. Oh, screw in there. Oh, this is not working. I feel like I'm trying to defuse a bomb right now. I'll put it back in. I'm gonna put it back in the stock location for the minute. This might change after I do this one. It might go, nope, we're shutting the camera off for a second, doing this a different way. So I'll get that in there. Put that up to here. The big thing is I'm concerned with it limiting the flex one way or the other. I guess that is much more of an angle than I thought it would be too. Not going to lie. So it definitely is a hard stop. So I'm not a big fan of that. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to try taking it out of here. To this point, I don't really know with as much lean as this is going to have. Maybe this will be hardly doing anything, but for the minute it'll work. I've seen videos of other ways guys have done it, but I don't rightly remember how they mounted their shocks, if I'm honest with you. So we're just kind of toying with some things to see what may or may not work. So now that I like a lot better, just based purely off of the amount of actual shock extension there is. And that does not limit anything at all. So for the minute, I think we're going to leave them that way, even though that is not exactly all that great. I would have liked to have come up here. I mean, I guess maybe pulling this one out and running it to there might be an option. We're just going to play with our options here for a minute. Screw it. We're not like we're in a hurry doing this. Okay, maybe we're kind of in a hurry on how much we're filming, but you know. Come on. Come on. Come on. There you go. So I could in theory go to there, and that wouldn't be too bad. Here, I feel like definitely is drastically limiting things, but it does allow it to push down past it. So I don't know. All right, I'm gonna throw you guys in there, and I'm gonna play with some. I'm gonna throw you guys back in the mountain, play with some things here, get this figured out. So, a bit of a visual aid for you guys. Stock. Done. This is the end goal. Honestly, I was a little worried the tire size was going to look a little small, but now that I see it on the truck with it lifted, I'm actually pretty happy with that because these are like 2.6s with a really small tire versus these are 1.9s with a big tire. I was afraid these were going to look small on it because of the overall size of it, but they look about like a 15 with like a 31 or a 32 on it. I think it's about right for it, or maybe like a 32, 33. And I'm talking about tire size. Like if you were to scale this up to a full size, I think that'd look like a 15-inch wheel, maybe a 16-inch wheel with like a 32 or 33-inch tall tire on it on this, which I think is pretty appropriate. Now for the fun part, to figure out the front. All right, we got it set up to do a little bit more work. I'm not exactly thrilled with the way this is set up at the minute, but it's a little less sketchy than how it was to start with. I went ahead and I removed the servo off camera just because, well, it was going to be simpler that way. I think this time to do everything with the front axle, I'm going to go ahead and fully remove the leaf springs and everything and do all of it without the truck on the bench, and then I'll bring it back once it's together and put it on. I think it's going to be a little easier that way than doing it the way I've been doing it, or the way I did it on the rear anyway. Plus, it'll give me more access to be able to re-drill some holes for the servo, to get the servo to set lower, higher in the frame, however you want to look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then we're going to do the servo modifying before we actually do everything with the axle. So it's just get the truck out of the way. And it doesn't need to come back up to do anything before we just put the axle back in. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the things I like about working on RC over full-size stuff. Try doing that with your full-size truck. And it's so simple. But, okay, so what we're going to do from here is fairly simple and straightforward. Gotta get the servo back down in place. Oh, maybe. The wiring doesn't stop me. Oh, do I really gotta notch? I don't want to notch that. Get it going the other way. Oh, this is gonna be a pain, isn't it? Really don't want to notch. If I notch that, I'm just gonna ruin it. So I know it can be done. I've seen where other guys have done this, so I don't know why I'm having an issue with it. The wiring is in the way. I wonder if I need to take the servo apart to do it. That'd be kind of crappy. I bet that's what I gotta do. Don't like that idea though. We're not doing that because I don't like that idea. Plain and simple, do not like that idea. So, which I could take the top off, that wouldn't bug me. So what we gotta do that I'm not really a fan of for this is we've got to take the servo apart, which can lead to issues down the road with like waterproofing and stuff. Because I'm not seeing another way of doing it. It's also not great if you ever need to change the servo in a hurry, because then that means you got a lot more steps to go through to change it out, like for a trail repair. But basically what we're going to do here is we're going to put the entirety of the servo in through the bottom. But for the minute, for what we need to do with the servo itself, which does not want to fit back in its home like it should. It fits this way, doesn't it? Oh, I didn't want to go down all the way because of those. Then on this side. Okay. Now I see what's going on. Slight modification. A little bit more slight modification. And voila, servo horn fits. So, what we gotta do from there is hopefully drill through here and hit the factory holes without going all the way through everything. Well, this is fun. We have one. Hope the drill is going the right way. Trying really hard not to just whale this thing through everything here, because I would like to be able to reuse the screws that was already holding the servos on without having to have some long things going through everything. So, here, I'll bring you in and show you what I did. So what we did was we used the top of the servo. Where did I set it? Used the top of the servo that we had to modify, so we could locate where the holes should be. Now, hopefully, if I did this right, and I didn't drill too far, I can reuse the screws and stuff that came with the servo to hold it on, and be able to put it right back on. You guys are still attached to the tripod, so this is really awkward. And just like that, we have that done. So, servo is mounted, screwed back together and all that. I don't know if that's necessarily how I needed to do that. I probably could have trimmed some stuff to make some room for the wiring, but I didn't like that idea. There was not very much room to cut into anything to make room for the wiring. And the hole just barely fits the servo through. So it didn't give a lot of good options. The next thing I'm going to do is, even though I didn't want to do the mod on the back, I am going to look and see what it was people trim on the front to make things work. Because I feel by the time I do everything on the front, that shock's going to be sitting like that. So, and I did get to looking, like, if I move it back here and like have the shock lean like I do on the back, I'm pretty sure it gets in the way of the steering. So we may go ahead and just set it up that way at first and see what happens and go from there. If it doesn't seem like it's going to affect the steering a lot, we might just leave it and go from there. Yeah, that sounds like kind of a plan. We'll do that. Alright, so what we've done here is we have flipped the leaf springs on top. While I was at it, I went ahead and cut off one of the pins right here, so I could actually slide the leaf spring back, which will push the axle forward, because one of the problems these do have, lifted or not, is the axle is actually a little too far back into the truck. So you run into rubbing issues when you're trying to turn when you do wheel and tire swaps. So that will help with that. And then I've also spaced the steering link down here and up here, so it makes up for the difference here. So this isn't at a crazy angle. It should keep it relatively low. I swapped these the way I did because the shocks aren't going to get attached there again, and the hope is that makes it to where, well, I think it's going to run into a steering issue, but we'll see. If it's up here, it'll be fine. I think it's up here, not dead on back here. That way I don't have to cut and modify these. That way, if I want to, for whatever reason, put it back to stock later, I can without much issue. The shocks will end up getting bolted on here on both sides. That is what I found online other guys were doing. So that's what I'm going to do on this one as well. That gets you guys caught up on what's going here. Next thing we're going to do is pull the truck down and work on putting the axle back on. Alright, instead of throwing this in time lapse, I'm going to try talking you guys through a little bit of what I'm doing. For starters, we're going to put the back side of the leaf springs back in. Now, I'm probably going to pull the drive shaft off. Well, I don't know if I do it right, I can get it back in right now. So if I do it right. That's if I do it right. It's a big if. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the back of the leaf springs in first. And then we'll worry about putting the fronts in. I don't know if this thing's got enough power to do all this, because it already died on me once while doing some of it. Now, big thing is here, we're not putting any of these in snug, or any of these in tight. If you put them in tight, then the leaf springs can't move around. So your goal is to hold them, not hold them. It is just to retain them in where they're supposed to be, while not actually putting any tension on them. Yep, that is as dead as I thought it was. So, plug it in and we'll do everything by hand. Ugh. Of course, it's going to make me do it the hard way on film. Yeah. So, all we're doing, I'm literally just running these down to where it's starting to touch the plastic on both sides. That's it, nothing crazy. Now, the next thing I want to go ahead and do is figure out which one of these bolt holes I want to try putting the shock in here. That don't work for crap. Actually, what I think we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use the original mounts on the front. And I think that is going to retain everything very well while not getting in the way of anything, hopefully. Now, this may cause a problem on the other side. We're going to figure that out in a minute. But on this side, it'll work great. Does not appear like it's going to cause any issues with suspension travel. The other side, well, the other side, we'll cross that bridge on the other side here in a second. So, let's get both leaf springs, get the bushings back into them. Then we can work on getting them back into the shackles, which appears to want to be a fight. Which is odd considering how well the other side went together. There we go. It could be that spring or that shock fighting me too. Maybe that ain't gonna work as good as hoped. That is the wrong bit. That bit definitely isn't gonna work. There we go. So all we're doing in this instance here, just getting the leaf spring put back in place. Oh yeah, that's gonna work just fine. I'll bring this forward like it needs to be here. And that looks like it should not cause any real issues with steering. It's not in that direction. It might there. It definitely doesn't there. So that's the next thing we got to work on to figure out here is how exactly the steering is going to work. So, because I would go to where everyone else said they did, but it seems to me if you do that, you've got to pull down on everything before you can even get it on. And I don't have any other shocks right now to use, so that's not really an option for me to run longer shocks. And a lot of these guys are saying they're running the stock shocks, but I don't fully. And they all did say that running the stock shocks, the way they were running them, they were a bit short, so maybe that's something they were running into, was that particular issue. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do it to where I'm leaving. The only parts I'm trying to change is the wheels and tires. I'm not trying to change any other parts. Well, servo horn's getting changed, but that's because I'm going to a metal one. That is less about the mods that we're doing and more about that just being a better thing for it in general. So I wonder, let's see, that on there. How straight on is that? Well, that has it almost low. I could get away with lowering this a little bit more. My fear is if I change this anymore, though, I'm going to run the risk of damaging it. Now, I could... No, that would give me the same issue. Never mind. Never mind. We're not going to go into that could, because that could don't work. We do need to be here now. Normally, I would say don't put that screw in until you've centered the servo, but this servo should still be centered from when it was originally in the truck. So hopefully that should be okay. If not, it's a very simple thing to change and fix. So the last thing we need to do is put the shock on this side, and I need to find the remote and cycle the steering to see if I have any issues with it or not. And I can already tell on this side I do. So we're just not even going to bother trying to finish that. Where else can we run this to? It doesn't seem like it'll be a problem. Alright, so that will work. Never mind. So, we are going to run this in the same place the other people did. We just got to find the screw for it. So, what they did, they took out this little screw here, and they put in a longer screw. Now, I don't want to go too crazy with the screw length, because if I go too crazy with it, then it will, in fact, cause issues running into other stuff, which I don't want to have happen. So, it also looks like I probably should have put those on the other way around, but everyone says if you did it the other way around, they run into the shocks, and that becomes a whole other issue. Can we get away with... This is the part where everything gets a little, I don't want to say tedious, but you've got to take your time and figure out exactly what parts are going to get you the exact fitment you're after. So, like in this case, this isn't too bad. It's just literally a matter of spacing some things out, getting it lined up right, and going from there. Some poor mirrors. I'm beating the crap out of the mirrors on the table. We got them pretty much buried down at an angle. If I make it through all this and don't snap one of them off, I'm probably going to realistically be doing really good. So, alright, because you see down here where I mounted this one, that doesn't exactly work on the other one. And I'll show you why. So, on this one, if you try mounting it down here the way I had it, it runs it into the steering wheel, which does not work. This, when I first started trying to put it together, it seemed like if I tried to put the shock, excuse me, up here in this hole, I was going to have to actually... Don't eat Taco Bell then try to film, guys. It's a terrible idea. See if I can find another one of those spacers. There we go. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, if I put it down here, A, it's almost impossible to get a line up the hole, and B, it's running into the steering linkage, which causes a whole slew of issues in itself. And it wouldn't if I would just modify them. If I would just modify the spring perch and get rid of that mount, it would be fine. Everything would work the way it needs to work. I'm trying really hard not to do that because I want the ability to be able to put it back to stock. Is it necessary? No. Do I want the ability to? Yes, because you never know when you're going to go, you know, I don't like it like this anymore. I just want it to look good sitting on a shelf. I like the way it's stock. I want to put it back. So, and I'm bad about that. I get in points where like I just don't want to look at it a certain way anymore, so I put it back the other way. I'm honestly debating on pulling the front axle back off again and flipping these just to get it out of the way, because it doesn't look like... Everyone claims that it's in the way of the shock if you don't cut those tabs off, and I'm not seeing it being in the way with the axle moved forward, with the shock actually spaced back a little bit. So, which is the whole reason why I put them on there the way I did. So, I think at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and shut you guys off quick, get that stuff reversed the way I actually want it, and I'll bring you guys back once it's all together and show you the finished product. Alright, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do here, as you can see I got the truck off the counter, is we are going to weight the front wheels. This is done on trucks like this to help with getting a front weight bias to keep the nose down when going up relatively steep hills. It's something I have done a lot of times on a lot of trucks. Surprised that wouldn't actually take the whole thing all the way around. Normally it takes the whole thing all the way around and then some. So as you can see here, we're not adding a ton. I think these are what, there's 1 ounce, 2 ounce, there's 3 ounces of weight here. We're going to be adding just over 2 ounces. Or just shy of 3 ounces. It's like 2 3/4 ounces here. Normally you'd add the full 3, but I don't know if it's just spacing or, well, no, it's not even spacing. This just wouldn't take the full 3 ounces. So, and then all we're going to do, well, first thing we're going to do, it's something I prefer to do. You don't need to do this step when doing it, but it helps in the long run, I think. I'm just going to take a little bit of electrical tape here and run it around them. So this isn't like sealing them or anything. That's not what we're trying to do by doing this. What we're doing is the tape ensures that the weights want to stay on and not come off. Because eventually some water will creep into these, and when that happens, you want something else besides just the double-sided tape actually physically holding them on. So now the next thing we gotta do is, this one is the front driver's side, this one's the front passenger side. These treads are directional. So what we want to do is we want to make sure when we put our bead lock together that we put it together in the correct orientation, because if not, we'll have 2 front drivers or 2 front passengers. So considering we got to take both of these apart, doesn't really matter which way we put the first one together. But if it was running on the front passenger before, you can make it the front driver, it doesn't matter. But it's easier to just put them back together the same way you took them apart, basically, than it is to sit and fight with them, putting them together opposites of what they were before, which no real reason why you can't put them together differently than they were before. It's just simpler doing it this way. Now, what you're going to watch me do here is I'm just working on seating the tire into the bead. This isn't normally a way you would do it. I'm doing it this way because this actually has a relatively thick bead. So if I get it at least partially seated, wow, everyone upstairs is making a bunch of noise today. Doing it this way, now when I go and bolt on the bead lock ring, it should help it actually seat better, because the tire itself will have already been seated like that. And then we'll just, this right here is the back ring. Now these aren't that much different than what bead locks in the full-size world are, with the exception of the fact, A, there's a lot less screws, and B, the design is a little bit different on how it all goes together. But the concept of what they're doing is the same. And the reasoning behind why you're doing it is the same. It's to make sure the bead does not unseat itself from the wheel. I am missing a couple of my screws. What did I do with them? Aha, there they are. So, there we go. That wheel is now weighted and complete. It does feel a significant amount heavier than the stock one, even with it being just shy of 3 ounces. That weight on the front end will make a huge difference. You'd be surprised, even on something the size of that, how much of a difference 6 ounces can make over the front end, especially when it's down this low. Now, with the way that's set up, all the weight from the electronics and everything are farther forward too, which does help. This is just a little, I guess you'd say, extra insurance to get everything where you want it. It could be better, it could be worse. If I was running a 2.2, I'd honestly put more weight in them, because I could. With 1.9s, I really don't like exceeding one band. Exceeding one band means you're normally double stacking, and then you start running out of room for your foam and everything in the tire to allow it to move the way it needs to move. And it's a lot of weight in a not big wheel. But this one, I will go ahead and throw you guys in time lapse, and you can watch me get it done and get them put on the truck. Well, there we have it, boys and girls. I gotta say, given the terrain down here is not exactly the most complicated thing in the world for a truck this size, I've gotta say, this has got a surprising amount of good flex for a pretty much not broke in yet leaf spring truck. It works very, very well. You can see right now it's flexing a little bit. And the back end's still even kind of stiff. If you noticed when I put the front together, I didn't put the extra leaf spring in like I did in the rear. So I'll probably end up taking the extra one out of the rear at some point. But overall, this thing is not bad. I mean, I've watched a few videos on it, and they seem like they performed really well when you did just what I've done here, and not anything else crazy. Other guys have coil sprung swap them, got rid of the leaf springs, put links on them, and they perform really, really well that way. But I didn't want to get rid of the leaf springs. That was one of the things I actually kind of liked about this. So, but I wanted more performance out of it because as it was stock, was not a very good performing rig. It wasn't something I could take out with the rest of my friends, drive, and have some fun with while keeping up with them. There was no way I was doing a lot of the obstacles they do. It wasn't going to happen. Set up like this, though, I feel like I could go trailing with them for a day, and I could have fun. So I'm very happy with this. I do foresee it getting some extra lights and a slight bumper modification at some point. Because the hobby shop I go to puts on an event called GOAT. And then they put on another event called GOAT Night Ops, which is where you're primarily night driving the whole time. I think this, with some extra light on it, could be a very fun rig for that. As well as just regular GOAT in general, which GOAT stands out for Get Out and Trail. It's an event, it's a fun run for a day where he gets everyone to normally goes shopping at his place to come out, go trailing, have some fun with their RCs, meet some new people, and it's something I really like going to every year. So hopefully me and the Jimny can make it. Yeah, I'm very happy with this. I gotta say, for being what I would call a relatively inexpensive RC truck, I mean, this, without it being on discount, is $329, which for a 6th scale is incredibly cheap. But even so, if you put that in with the 10 scale trucks, because this is about the same size as most of the 10 scale stuff, the body just looks a little bit bigger. If you put this in line with the 10 scale stuff, even then, the price still isn't bad. At $329, that realistically puts it in the same price point as what most of what I would consider good starter rigs are. So you're looking at that's right around the same price as a Red Cat Gen 8. That's right around the same price as a starter Element. That's right around the same price as a 10.2 Deadbolt or a 10.2 Honcho. Same goes for the Traxxas TRX4. This is in the same price range as the sport model of that's got stripped of all the extra features. And I would say this looks better than all of those. This is by far the best looking option, or coolest looking option. Maybe not best looking, but coolest looking option of that entire lineup. And it's the only one with leaf spring. So if you want to try leaf spring, this is an amazing starter truck for that. This, I would say, is leaps and bounds better than starting with a RC 4-wheel drive Trailfinder 2. I like the way the transmission and stuff is set up better. I like the look of I won't say I like the look of the body better than the Trailfinder 2s. That's because it's got Trailfinder 2's got a Hilux body, and I love the Hilux body. That is by far my favorite RC body. But chassis-wise, though, I would say this chassis blows the TF2 out of the water. And for things that it has in its price point, you won't find other trucks that have it. You won't find other trucks in this price point with working headlights. And these lights work stock. That's not something anyone added to it. You're not going to find another truck in this price point that has a full depth interior with actual seats. You're not going to find another one in this price point with this much detail in it. It's a good truck. At least it seems to be. Take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, obviously, because, I mean, you see where I'm driving it at the moment. But this is something like, realistically, everything here is stock with the exception of the wheels and tires. So anyone can have this with an hour's worth of time, if that. I think in swapping the axles around and everything, I got about an hour into it. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Which is not bad. And you end up with a much higher performance vehicle than what it come out of the box. I would even say, if you did it right, if you were picking this up at the hobby shop and determined to go almost straight to the trail with it, if you had a slightly smaller set of 1.9s, you could probably swap them on quick at the hobby shop, go directly to the trail, run it, and have a good time. And I think it would do okay. Set up like this, I think it's going to do a lot better. Is this something I feel like I would grab and go trailing with every time? No, but that's because I like a lot of variety. That's why I got so many RC trucks. But is it something I definitely want to keep on the shelf because I think I'm going to enjoy driving this at least from time to time? Definitely. This is I'm not going to say it's the best thing wow, hang on, guys. Alright, let's try that again. I'm not going to say this is the best thing FMS offers, because they offer some other really cool stuff too. They offer this same basic platform with an actual Jeep body as like a World War II Jeep. That would probably be more people's taste than what the Jimny is. And I think it's about the same price. But this is definitely something that I think a more seasoned driver will enjoy. Might not be the best thing for a beginner with it being leaf spring, but for the rest of us that's had a ton of leaf spring vehicles, or not necessarily had a ton of leaf spring vehicles, but have a ton of other trail trucks, this is a good change of pace. So I don't think this is the last time you guys are going to see it. I think it'll be back for some more mods maybe later. Probably some electronic upgrades. I'd like to throw like a Hobby Wing 1080 in it. Maybe a better motor, even though this motor seems like it's got a good amount of power, so it might stay. Probably throw a better servo in it just to be safe. Maybe some more appropriate wheels and tires than what I had. This is just what I had laying in the drawer. This video wasn't planned for today. The original plan was to do some stuff on the Jeep, but I didn't have the parts I needed to go out and work on the actual Jeep. So here we are. We're working on the little wannabe Jeep instead of the actual full-size Jeep. Aw. I'm sorry. You're not a wannabe Jeep. You're cooler than a Jeep. Good jimny. But yeah. So I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, like, share, subscribe. I'm trying to get something going here. Hopefully the next video we are back on the Jeep. I need to get that done. You guys will hear a little bit more about why I need to get that done in detail in that video. Not going to go too crazy with it here. Just some things have happened and I need to take care of some stuff. So, but it's all for the best. You'll learn more about that there. So, till next time, guys, have a good week, good weekend, wherever you're at watching this. And enjoy yourselves. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.